Goodyng, the Polymath. This is a really exciting one. When Goodyng came onto the scene with Isom #2, people responded to him really well. The concept of this, uh, technologically advanced emergency services for a hire character is really intriguing. And when he got, the announcement that he would have his own book with Mike Baron being attached as a writer, the hype for this character was cemented, and now we finally have his book in hands, as this serves as his true origin story. I'm here to report that is a fantastic origin story. This is a short one. It's about 70 pages or so, so it does leave a little bit more desire to be desired in terms of developing the character, in terms of developing Gooding services more. That really comes at the end of the book, although this is definitely getting into spoiler talks, I should say. Spoiler warning for Gooding. I'm going to go a little bit into it. I don't want to spoil too much or give away too much, since this book is still really fresh at the time I'm reviewing this. Of course, you've got your very typical splash page that gives you the credits. Mike Baron writing this book, Will Conrad doing the pencils and the inks, and Jay Brown coloring it. Invincible Art Studio lettered this book, and visually, this book is a fantastic experience. It goes from, Cato Goodyng as a child all the way to his adult life with the beginning of Gooding Services, and it's a very fast-paced book. But it doesn't really overwhelm you. It presents this information in a way that makes a lot of sense. The story feels really nice. All the characters make sense. They're introduced quite well. Some of the side characters could have used a little bit more development, since, like, again, I said this is 70 pages or so. There is some stuff that gets lost through the cracks, I would say, in this story. So it would be nice to have another book with Gooding where these characters get a little bit more development, where, stuff that happens in this book, it gets examined a little bit more. But for an origin story, this is really nice. It really establishes Gooding as a character, and just, how intelligent he is and why he's doing what he's doing. But this is definitely visually fantastic, and I'm going to show, yes, I got the post-it note right there. This is probably the best art from the book. So all of Will Conrad's art really pops off the page. It's a book that's lettered quite well. None of the lettering is really superbly done to the point where I'm going to say this is one of the shining points of the book. It does its job. It presents the information to the reader in the way that it needs to be presented. But the art is absolutely fantastic. Will Conrad did a fantastic fantastic job drawing this. Every page feels alive. Everything feels very dynamic, and the Rippaverse is really settling into the style, and this book complements it quite well. Of course, like I said, with the writing, Mike Baron's a legendary writer. He had his, Punisher run in the '80s. I read Thin Blue Line by him, so he's got great writing skills. And even though the story is quickly paced and quite short, it gives you a lot, and it really establishes a true origin for Gooding. And that's what I really like about this book. And it also establishes, so you got Ron Hodges, his high school nemesis, it starts in high school. His high school nemesis, or childhood nemesis, I should say, establishes him as the villain. And you've got these converging storylines of Ron Hodges and Gooding, both developing as they go into adulthood, and their stories converge and meld with each other in a very beautiful way. And this is part of the skill of being a great writer, where you present all this information and then tie it all together in the end. And like I said, there's some stuff that gets lost through the cracks in this book. Some stuff I would have liked to have seen gotten examined more. Particularly Gooding's, you've got Gooding's wife, you've got some of the people that he works with, and like I said, towards the end, because you have Gooding services, and that's really what people are drawn to with Gooding, and that does not get nearly examined nearly enough of the book. It's really how Gooding got from being a whiz kid child to founding Gooding services, right? And that's the interesting thing. So, like a book two, I would say definitely would be in order. Like Gooding, like the Adventures of Gooding Services would be a good book, and then you have, of course, Ron Hodges' story line getting developed further than that. But this really is not only an origin character for Gooding, it's an origin story for Gooding. It's an origin story for Ron Hodges, who I definitely say is a really good character. He's quite interesting. He's got this typical psychopath vibe, and of course, how he gets his powers does give you some insight into the nature of Accepts in the Rippaverse. Although it's all very subtle. A lot of this world building with the Rippaverse is very subtle, implied stuff, and there's no exception with this book. And I think Mike Barron presents this information in a really good way. He gets into the sandbox and he builds his own sand castle, which is really nice to explore, and it definitely leaves you wanting more. And that's one of the good things with any comic, and that's one of the also bad things is that, like, oh, what's there is good, but it's not enough, man. And that's the way that I feel. Like I said, there definitely is some plot points that could have been delved into deeper. This could have been like maybe 10, 15 pages longer and established some more stuff, but then it could have dragged on a little bit too long. Some stuff could have not felt correctly paced, but this is paced really quickly. All the information gets to you when it needs to get into your awareness, and it makes it a very good experience. And again, art like this makes it just such a wonder to read. Nothing feels like you're being rushed. Nothing imposes on you. You're just experiencing this um, fantastic story. And that's really what I want to mention with this book, is that it is a fantastic origin story that goes from his childhood to his adulthood really quickly. And while it does feel quick, it doesn't feel like that quickness, that quick pacing is like going to give you whiplash, because Mike Barron does a very good job at establishing who Gooding is as a character, and then just developing that character. Although again, like I said, with how short the story is, with how quickly paced the story is, it would have been nice for it to have been a little bit longer and developed a little bit more. And of course, going into Gooding services proper, that does not really happen except at the very tail end of the book. But what is there is interesting and well done, and it definitely leaves you wanting more. It definitely makes Gooding a more interesting character than he was with his very short appearance in Isom #2. So that's really the fun thing with this. So this definitely makes the book this definitely makes the Rippaverse more lived in, more built up. You've got some minor stuff mentioned in the very beginning of this book, that it does lend itself to world building, and that's really the stuff that I like. Is that this definitely feels like a meaningful universe, and this book really just adds to that fact. But I think I'm rambling on long enough. This definitely is a fantastic book. Including the Polymath. And one, I think I did mention, I was asked on John Longbox's live stream with Isom versus Cyberfrog, was asked, what was your favorite cover for Gooding? And I said, like, either A or D, but I clearly chose B because I had ordered B as my reading copy. And I absolutely love this cover. So the development of these two characters, Ron Hodges and Gooding, they meld with each other. They start at the same point, and then they converge. Then they branch off, and then they converge at the end. And that's what makes this book absolutely fantastic. And it definitely makes it intriguing. It makes you like, I want to find out more about Ron Hodges. I want to find out more about Gooding. And that's really what any good origin story does: is it establishes characters, and it gives you the opportunity to push them forward as they grow and mature, especially in the context of the Rippaverse, where this is a comic book universe, right? So these characters can appear again in other scenes. You can, have like Alpha Core 3 and see Ron Hodges. You can have like an Isom #4 and see Ron Hodges. And he can appear in Yaira #2, and you'll know about Ron Hodges because you read Gooding the Polymath. And this is really why I love Rippaverse so much, and why I'm so invested in it, is because you have the opportunity to establish these characters individually and then have them converge and meld with each other in these really beautiful long-form storylines. And Mike Barron gives a very great contribution, I think a very important one, because Gooding is definitely going to be appearing more and more in the Rippaverse, because he's in Shadow Valley, so he's going to be involved with Isom. He definitely has a lot of technology under his belt, and he's got this presence in the technology community. So he'll be working with Projexis. He'll be working with these other companies that I'm sure are going to appear in the Rippaverse as it becomes more developed and more lived in. So it's really exciting to see, and it's definitely a really good story to read. Even if it's your first one, the story it tells makes sense. You don't need to read any of the other books to get the gist of what's going on with this book. And if you've read any other Rippaverse book, you definitely are going to enjoy this one. And like I said, it is the shortest Rippaverse book, so it does leave a little bit to be desired in terms of diving deep into Gooding's story. It's a pretty quick, and say, bird's eye view of Cato's origin story. But honestly, I do really like that the pacing feels really good. If you try to make it really long and really fleshed out, you run the risk of it making it overstay its welcome, and this book definitely doesn't do that. Mike Baron did a great job at making this book a real page turner, and that's really all you can ask for with a comic. And with that, I'm out. Hopefully you enjoy this book. Hopefully you enjoy this review, and if you get the book, hopefully you enjoy it.
It's a uphill battle, but